All right, we're continuing in this series on the one things. We've covered 4 already. This is our 5th one. We'll have one more next Sunday. And this morning, it's the topic of being of the witness that we have. One thing, the witness. We want to look at John chapter 9. If you have a Bible, great. If you don't, that's all right. I'm going to read a lot of it. We're just going to kind of work our way. I figured there might be a number of difficulties bringing food and your Bible, so that's okay. But again, I'm trying to read most of it. But again, John chapter 9, it's a familiar story. It's the idea, it's the whole account of Jesus healing the man who was born blind and that whole discussion that went along with that. And just another one of Jesus' miracles. Warren Wiersbe says this, that Jesus performed miracles in order to meet human needs, but he also used those miracles as a launching pad for a message conveying spiritual truth. He wasn't just going around healing people. Yes, he saw the needs, but if he was just to be a healer only, he would have healed everybody he came in contact with. And we know for a fact, because even in the pages of the New Testament, Jesus doesn't heal every person he comes in contact with. My favorite one is the man who was at the pool waiting for someone to lift him into the pool, and Jesus walks right to him. And it's just the way the account reads. It's Jesus must have walked through and by hundreds of people who were in the same boat waiting to be put in that pool for the miracle waters being turned. But he walked through all those people and found one, and he healed the one. And the other, I always say, the other people must have been like, yo, Jesus, what about me? Why not me? But yet this is the statement. Jesus did, yes, try to meet human needs. He did. He fed thousands, but he didn't feed everybody. There was always an underlying spiritual message, spiritual truth that he was trying to convey that he would use in that event that he would do. Even in this case here, part of what I think Jesus is doing, he is in many of the miracles too, but in this one specifically, he's just using that to be a proof of who he said he was, that he was the Son of God, and so he was proving that by doing something miraculous. So here we are in John chapter 9, and let me just read along, make some comments, and then make some summary points at the end. John 9, verse 1. As Jesus went along, he saw a man blind from birth. So that's just a unique setting. There were lots of people that were blind. Maybe an accident or just a health issue that caused it. Sometimes it could be just a temporary blindness. But here's someone that has never, ever seen sight. It's an interesting thing because later as the Pharisees come and by the fact that he healed him, the fact that it's stated very clearly that this was a man who was born blind, we know that something miraculous had to happen. It wasn't like, oh, I've got something in my eye and I've got to put a patch over it and I can't see out of it, but after time, as my eye naturally heals itself, whoa, oh no. Thank you. I thought I tied those down good enough, but not. Those gusts win, thank you. But just the fact that there was this naturally occurring thing where he had been born this way, that does a lot to, again, just add credibility to what he's going to do. So he continues. The disciples, which is another thing that I find interesting. He goes along, he sees a man blind from birth, and his disciples ask him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? I don't know how, just in other readings of this, I've missed this, because this would be something you would associate with the Pharisees, those who were against it. They're trying to get Jesus into a trap. Jesus, why is this guy blind? Was it his sin or his parents' sin? But this is his disciples. The ones who are following him are asking the question. Now, we know based on our study that we did not too long ago of Genesis chapter 1 through 3, that sin has consequences. Sin has an effect on all of our lives. It has an effect on all of creation, and that illness and things like that come along, and it's because of the sin. If sin had not entered the world in Genesis chapter 3, we wouldn't have the types of sicknesses and things that happen now. So there is that component of it. But yet within this world in which they were living, there was this belief that if something bad happened to you, it was somebody's fault. It was your fault. It was, as they say, was it this man who sinned, or was it his parents? And I just have the question, don't we do that sometimes? When bad things happen to us, we say, did I sin? Did I do something wrong? Because I got this disease, or because this thing happened to me in my life, is it because of my sin or someone else's sin? And it could be. There is a slight chance of that. But I think the greater thing is, this is just a part of human existence. Bad things do happen to good people, and sometimes that's just the way it is. And so Jesus has asked that question. And Jesus says in verse 3, neither this man nor his parents sinned, Jesus said, but this happened so that the work of God might be displayed in his life. As long as it is day, we must do the work of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world. So Jesus gives the clarification. Not this guy's fault, not his parents' fault. It's simply for this reason alone, that the work of God might be seen in this guy's life. What if we took that approach to the things that happen to us? Maybe God just wants to show up and show off. Maybe that's the only reason. And I'm the vessel that God is going to use in this thing. We all know, we pray for healing, and sometimes God does not heal. Sometimes we are like Paul with a thorn in our flesh that just goes on and on and on through our whole life. Sometimes people die because of those things. But view it in the sense of, what is the story that God is trying to tell in and through this thing that we find ourselves in? That's Jesus' explanation here. And he says, as long as we're here, remember, the disciples asked the question, and he says, as long as it is day, we must do the work of him who sent me. You're with me in this. We're all doing the work that God the Father has sent me to do. And so I'm the light of the world. I'm here, and we're going to do this work. And it's all so as we do these things that the glory of God might be seen, the work of God might be seen. And so we're going to keep moving forward. So then he steps forward. After he said this, he spit on the ground, made some mud with the saliva, and put it on the man's eyes. Witch doctor-like potion. You know, that's not really what you would think a good medical person would do. But hey, let's just spit on the dirt, make some mud, put it on your eyes. And then he says, go and wash in the pool of Siloam. So the man went and he washed and he came home seeing. Now I find this interesting. There's the work of God in this, but there's also the work of this man. One, he has to allow Jesus to put spit-filled dirt on his eyes. He could have said, now he can't see, but I imagine he maybe heard Jesus spit. Maybe other people, as this is being mixed up, they're thinking, oh, what's this? What's this? And then as Jesus starts to bring it up and put it on his eyes, people are probably, even like your reactions, like, oh, that's gross. Oh, don't do that. And he hears that. But one, he allows it to be done. Second of all, Jesus says, go and wash your face off. Wash this stuff off your face. And he does that. He goes, not knowing that that would heal him, but because Jesus said, he went and he did it. And that's when he came home seeing. He allowed God's work to be done in this place. So his neighbors and those, as he came home seeing, verse 8, his neighbors and those who had formerly seen him begging asked, isn't this the same man who used to sit and beg? And some claimed that he was. And others said, no, he only looks like him. Did he have like a mystery twin or something? I don't know. But they're trying, because they can't explain it. He looks like the same guy, except that guy couldn't see and this guy can. Something happened. And so they say in verse 10, how then were your eyes opened? And he replied, the man they called Jesus made some mud and put it on my eyes. He told me to go to Siloam and wash. And so I went and I washed, and then I could see. They asked him, where's this man? And he said, I don't know. And so they brought him to the Pharisees, this man who had been blind. And now the day on which Jesus had made the mud and opened the man's eyes was a Sabbath. Don't do those things on the Sabbath. It's the holy day. You're supposed to rest. You're not supposed to do anything. So even the spitting and the mixing of mud, that's frowned upon. And the fact that the guy walked probably beyond the prescribed distance that he was allowed to on a day. Then he walked to the pool and then he washed his own face. All bad things. And so the Pharisees asked this man how he had received his sight. And once again, he says, he put mud on my eyes and I washed and now I see. But some of the Pharisees said, this man is not from God, for he does not keep the Sabbath. There it is. This possibly can't be a God activity because somebody who's godly isn't going to do these things on the Sabbath. And others said, how can a sinner do such miraculous signs? And so they were divided. So finally they returned to the blind man. What do you have to say about him? It was your eyes he opened. So you're the guy who was healed. What do you have to say about Jesus? And he said, he is a prophet. He is one sent from God with the word of God, with the message of God. That's what I believe. And the Jews still didn't believe that he had been blind and had received his sight until they sent for his parents and they say, okay, is this your son? Is this the one that you say was born blind? How is it now that he can see? And the parents say, we know that this is our son. You know your kids, right? You can tell them from a distance. You can pick them out of a crowd in a hurry. This is the parents. This is our son, no doubt about it. And we know that he was born blind. They don't really know how old he was at this point, but he said he's been blind for a while, and we know that. But how he can see now, or who opened his eyes, we don't know. Ask him. He is of age. So there's this, he was of age. That's probably like maybe because again, if women in the Jewish culture could get married at like 15, 16. So he's probably somewhere in that, probably older, mid-teens, maybe older than that. So, but he was in the age where he could go to court and give an account and it would be relied upon as not just a child talking, but as an adult. So they say, ask him, he's of age, and he will speak for himself. So a second time, verse 24, they summoned the man who had been blind. Now they say, give glory to God. We know that this man is a sinner. Basically, we know that the guy you say healed you, he's really a sinner. So don't give us what he said. Give us really something that would honor God, not honor this man. And give glory to him and give us the answer we want. We don't like the answer you gave us before. Give us the answer we want to hear. And he replied, whether he is a sinner or not, I do not know. And here's our phrase. One thing I do know. I was blind, but now I see. He gives witness to the fact, and here's the idea of the witness. The one thing I know, I was blind, but now I see. There's been a change in my life, and I'm going to continue to speak about it, and I'm going to continue to tell the same thing if this is what happened over and over and over again. And then they say again, what did he do to you? How did he open your eyes? And the man answers, I've told you already, and you did not listen. Why do you want to hear it again? Do you want to become his disciples too? Do you just want to hear it one more time so that you can believe what I've already experienced and what I've said? The fact that I know that he's a prophet and he's done this miraculous thing. I'll just say it one more time so that, hey, if that helps you become a disciple of his too, great. I'll be a witness to the truth. I'll be a witness to a truth. And so he again tells them and the story continues. And we're not going to touch on the spiritual point that he was trying to make at the very end of the chapter. You can read that this afternoon and find out. I just want to focus on that thing, that here he is, this man is giving a witness of what God has done for him. So here's just some thoughts. Really, this is all about, the witness is really about just a simple story. This is not a complicated story. This is just a simple story. And so here's my points, my thoughts. First of all, this is just a simple story that God is writing. God is he's in total control of this, even from the beginning when Jesus says, this is the work that is being done so that God might be displayed in this man's life. God knew this was going to happen. God was in control. This was a story that God was writing, and so he's putting everything in place, putting Jesus at the right place at the right time to meet up with this guy so that he'd been blind his whole life, but now he's going to do it. God is in total control of this situation. So that's number one, a simple story that God is writing. Number two, it's a simple story in which God is active. This man's life, God was going to show up and do something and do a miracle. God was going to be at work, and there's the activity of God in this man's life. And the man knows it. He says, the man they call Jesus, I believe he's a prophet. I did what he said. And look, now I can see. And so now I'm going to tell the story. And hey, why do you want to hear it again? Do you want to be his disciple too? Basically implying I've become his disciple. I've seen the God active in my life. And so I believe and I'm following. Do you want to hear it and keep hearing it so that you too might be a follower? So a simple story that God is writing, a simple story in which God is active. And then it's a simple story that's pretty easy to share. Because he's asked over and over again, tell us how you can see. That was it. Tell us how you can see. And it was the simple story. Okay, Jesus spit, made mud, put it on my eye, told me to wash. I came out clean. Simple story, easy to share. And every time he's asked, he says the same thing. He doesn't embellish it. He doesn't make it more complicated. He just simply takes that simple story and shares it in the easiest way he can. He's sharing what God had done. And he just completely continues to share that. And then it's this idea that there's this simple story, not only where God is showing up, where he's in control, God's writing this, God's active. It's also this easy thing to share, but it's a simple story that can have a major impact. The story of this guy affected the whole area in which he was involved in. The people who knew him were amazed by this. They wanted to hear it. His parents are brought in. Okay, you tell us what you're from your perspective. And they say, no, just talk to him. But it affected his family. They had to also give credit or discredit to what had happened. The Pharisees come in. They're impacted by it. It's all over. And the story, as he tells it, as he shares it over and over again, it has a major impact. And it even to the fact where this man would say, Pharisees, do you want to become his disciple too? Do you want this story to impact you like it impacted me? Because maybe you should be open to that. And so my question for us this morning is, number one, what's your story? What's your story? Do you recognize the fact that God in your life and in my life is writing a story? And in our story, we're the main character. And he's weaving us through life in different situations and different events that we find ourselves in. And God's doing this work. He's writing this. He's in control of your life. So what's your story? And as you live your life and see the things that God is allowing you to experience, how are you framing that story in your head? So what is your story? And as we think about that, it's got to be in this part of our story. It's got to be this fact of, okay, What has God done? What is God doing in my life right now? How is he crafting the story and building me and growing me in my story? What is he doing? And how can I integrate God into everything that happens? Yes, bad things happen to us along our life. Difficult situations come up in our life. Challenges come our way. Good things come our way as well. But what has God done? What is God doing? And how can I see God at work in the story that he's writing in your life and in my life? And I got to put those pieces together. I'm afraid for some of us, even as Christians, we just leave God out of the picture. We're so focused on the story that's going on around us and all the events that happen to us. And it's almost like we don't even sit back and reflect a little bit and say, gee, I wonder what God's doing here. Or acknowledging this is what God has done. We tend to take credit for the good things that happen. We tend to take credit for it ourselves. Well, I got this promotion at work. Why? Because, well, I'm a dedicated worker. I did this project, and every project I'm given, I complete it not only on time, I complete it early, and it's not just on budget, it's under budget. And so I'm a good worker. I'm good. I do my job and I do it well. Nobody complains about me. And it becomes me. But maybe what if it was the fact that we acknowledge God in the mix of this? That God gave you the wisdom, God gave you the abilities, God gave you the problem-solving entities to do this. And we just say, wow, yeah, I was able to accomplish all these things, but it wasn't just me, it was God with me. God in me, the Spirit of God in me to help me do this. And so how does God weave into this? So what's your story? What has God done? What is God doing? And then my last thought is, who needs to hear your story? Who needs to hear your story? I'm telling you, somebody needs to hear it. The days of being silent Christians and not speaking about what God has done and what God is doing, those need to be behind us. God's done so much for us. We sang this morning, this is amazing grace. Man, look at all that God has done for me. How can we keep that to ourselves? How can we be silent in this? We have people that need to hear our story. There are people that need to hear that when you have gone through something difficult and you have come through it, how God helped you in that scenario. I met with a guy last week. I really don't know. Well, in a short nutshell, it was a pastor's meeting. And I was asked to just kind of share a little bit of my testimony, and I shared it, and just there were like 5 or 6 of us there. It wasn't a big meeting. Normally we'd have like 15 or 20. I'm thinking, oh great, here I am. I get to share my story, and I only got like 5 or 6 people here. Oh well, but I did it. But this guy called me, and this last week we finally got to meet, and he said, Scott, I heard your story, and just some things resonated with me. And he said, I just wanted to talk with you because it seems to me that as you talked, you have developed this confidence in God and who he is and what he is doing. And I need that in my life. Like, all right. So maybe the reason I shared my testimony on that day with only 5 or 6 people was for this one guy. He needed to hear my story. And so we met. We're going to meet again next month. I'm just going to try to encourage him and help him. And again, just by what? Just by telling my story. This is what God's done. This is what God is doing for me. What he's done for me, he can do for you. And that's the place we need to be. So what's your story? What has God done? What is he doing? And who needs to hear your story? Could you just think about that as you go through life? The people you bump into, think, maybe this person, as I listen to the conversation, maybe there'll be just a little clue that says, man, this person could really use this part of my story where I can share what God has done, how God helped me, and maybe God can help this person as well. The witness. That's what we're called to do. Jesus said to the disciples, you will go and be my witnesses. You will tell all the things that you have seen and heard of me. You will tell the story. This is what Jesus did. This is what he was doing. And this is how it can impact you. And it will have a major impact. And you just the 40 people that are here this morning, if we would just go and tell our story about God, we don't know what the major impact that would be. Why don't we give it a try? Why don't we give it a try and just see what God might do through our story?